The following program is a public access production. Comcast is required to provide time on this channel and make it available pursuant to franchise agreements with the communities we serve. Comcast is not affiliated with the following program or the producers of public access programming and is not responsible for the content. The following program does not reflect the opinions of Comcast or its affiliates.
InnerQuest explores various pathways through which you can connect with the infinite wisdom of the universe and apply it to personal, professional, and spiritual growth. This program, featuring accomplished practitioners, educators, and authors, is provided by Infinity Foundation, an innovative center for holistic studies and research. We invite you to share this journey with us.
Welcome to InnerQuest. My name is Jay Stone, your host for today, and our guest is Dr. Judith Wright. Welcome, Dr. Wright.
Thank you.
Is it okay if I call you Judith?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Judith is a professor of transformational coaching, co-founder and chief academic officer of Wright Graduate University, and president and co-founder of the Wright Foundation, a nonprofit dedicated to helping individuals bring out their best. Her books includes Transform, The Science of Spectacular Living, There Must Be More Than This, The One Decision, The Self-Addiction Solution, and The Heart of the Fight. And I guess today we're going to be focusing on Transform.
Yeah, we can start there. Yeah.
Well, let me give you a little endorsement. I did look at your book cover to cover, and I was very impressed with the writing. The book just flows, and it's filled with information.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that. Thank you.
And if I can tell that if people follow the process of Transform, they will experience transformation. And you co-authored a book with your husband.
I did.
Who couldn't make it tonight because he's leading a seminar somewhere else. Can you tell us about the Wright Foundation for the Realization of Human Potential and the Wright Graduate University?
Yeah, we really are about people fulfilling their potential. I know those are common words, but we've made this a lifelong study now of over 35 years of research and pulling from the best of what we call human emergence technologies to develop innovative curriculum and coaching technologies and training and seminars that can actually give people the skills to live the lives that I think we all deeply desire. And I think part of it is that helping people realize possibilities, that all of us, I think, feel like there's more in us than we're manifesting. As much as our lives might have, there's still something unfulfilled for all of us. And what is that? And so we've been studying who are the people that really live great lives from the inside out. They want great leadership, intimacy, depth of service. What do they do? And how can we learn from them and then teach those skills to people to have great lives?
Now, you have two places, one in Chicago and one in Wisconsin.
Yeah.
So why don't you tell our audience what goes on in Chicago and what you teach in Wisconsin?
Great. So we have both kind of a not-for-credit part of our business and a for-credit part of our business. The Wright Graduate University for the Realization of Human Potential is an accredited university. We're able to grant master's and doctoral degrees in transformational leadership and coaching, and also graduate certificates in emotional intelligence and social intelligence. And also,
I never knew there was such things.
I know, well, there is.
And you developed a curriculum for that?
We did, and it's just been an amazing adventure,
How many years?
We started kind of in 2008, and then you go through quite a process, and so we're now rolling and accredited, and our students are eligible to apply for Title IV funding, federal loans, all kinds of things. It's been an amazing journey.
Now, both your husband and you have doctorate degrees.
Yes, we do.
And what are your doctorate degrees in?
We chose them so that we could be part of starting the Graduate University of Educational Leadership and Change, which is exactly what we're doing and helping people to do.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. What led you into the human potential field?
I think part of it, this will sound kind of funny, but I grew up in a factory town. I grew up in Flint, Michigan, which is, having all the...
One of the porous.
It's really having troubles. It has always, and had troubles with the General Motors pulling out and the lead in the water, all the things
Yeah,
that are happening.
I was just talking to someone about that today.
It's really tough. And growing up there, I mean, there was at that point the factories were. When I was growing up, the factories were abundantly staff people.
Did you know
that
Michael Moore?
Well, no, but he is from my hometown.
Yeah,
It seems like I should, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's like the biggest thing people look for in their lives, many of them, is to be able to get a job in the assembly line, because it was good benefits, it was secure, but oftentimes that was it. That was for most of the kids that I went to high school with. Most of them didn't go to college, or if they did, it might be community college or perhaps a state school 40 minutes away, which is fine. That's lovely. It's okay. But there were a lot of amazing people with tremendous talent, and for me, I was looking at well, that's fine, but is that it? Is that all there is? Are there other possibilities? So I think for me, it started I knew I wanted something more. I wanted to see what was possible in the world, and that's always been something for me. I've always wanted to really discover what's possible.
When you graduated from high school, did you go to college right away?
I did. I did go to college right away. I went to a state school, went to Michigan State.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, right. But which was, kind of it was an adventure for me, but it didn't.
It also was probably an exciting time with social change going on.
It was. It really was. And I think there was consciousness raising and a lot of possibilities that were showing at that point. So for me, it's been this kind of lifelong desire to understand myself, to live a good life, and to help other people do that.
Now, my understanding is you used to work with people with disabilities.
Yeah, I did.
And what did you do, and then how did your life transition?
Yeah, it's interesting for me. When one of my very first jobs was that I started a model program for college students with disabilities, people who were paraplegic or quadriplegic or deaf or cerebral palsy or blind, all kinds of things.
Were you working at a university, or?
Yeah, I was at a college, and this is before really services had been developed. The laws had just changed. People didn't really know how to do this, didn't know how to have it
before
be.
the disability.
Yeah, it was just started. So there were 3 model programs in the country, and I was given one of them to develop. And I think I was too young to know what you couldn't do. It was actually kind of, to really discover. And it was a beautiful opportunity to really learn and grow with the students that I was serving, and also liaison with the faculty. And then I came to Chicago and started a program for little children with developmental disabilities and their families, so that they could have a good start in life. What would it really take to start that out well? And I learned a tremendous amount through those experiences. I thought I had the formula for a good life. I thought if I got good grades and I just did everything right, and I was, if I had the perfect mind and the perfect circumstances and the perfect body, and if I lost weight, and if, I had this formula of what I thought was a great life. And I realized that just wasn't the point, because I was working with a lot of people who didn't have perfect minds and circumstances and bodies, but there was
But they're all perfect in some ways.
They are, absolutely.
Yeah.
And the quality of their lives and the joy they were having, and there was a sense of fulfillment that many of them, not all of course, many of them had that I didn't. And it started to wake me up to really the power of the human spirit, and really what it takes, and to live more in the moment and not be going toward a future goal all the time in order to be happy. But I learned a lot, and I realized it wasn't just there was more people than me that needed those lessons, and really how to do that.
So it almost sounds like to me is that through working with people with disabilities, you learned about human potential.
I know I did. Isn't that, it's a beautiful gift. It was ironic to me, but I really realized I really did learn about human potential in that way.
Okay. Now, your book is called Transform, the Science of Spectacular Living.
Yeah.
What is your definition or practice of transformation?
I know it's a word that everybody uses pretty much. You hear it everywhere, but when we talk about, we really mean transformation. I want to differentiate that from learning and growing. Learning is knowing something today that you didn't know before. Growing is being able to do something you wouldn't have done before. But transformation is being someone that you wouldn't have been before. And for us, it's really who you're becoming, and it's more permanent. It's really, it becomes your identity, who you are, not just a little flirtation with a little piece of growth. It's different.
Yeah, I would agree with you. It's like a recovering addict that's, is on a path that
Yes.
they know they can't go back to
Exactly.
the other
Right.
person, or people trying to lose weight,
Yeah.
I tell people lose the weight in such a way that the weight doesn't come back.
Well, and that's the trick, isn't it? And
Yeah.
because otherwise it does. And that's, partly that was one thing that I was learning. I had been heavy. I was fat as a child, and I was, I had lost weight, but I hadn't changed my relationship with food. I hadn't really transformed. I was just, willpower. It was really, as I've learned these things and did the research on these great lives, that I found the weight so the weight doesn't come back. And I'm like, yay. And as other changes in life can be.
Well, as soon as I met you, first of all, I read your book, and I could see it was professionally done. And as soon as I saw you come in the studio, I said, "This is a professional."
Mm-hmm.
You've also been on a lot of TV shows like Oprah.
Mm-hmm.
This is not something that you told me to mention, but can you just say a few words about some of your other adventures?
I've been very blessed. It's been really a very fascinating journey. I have been on Oprah, and I've been interviewed by Diane Sawyer in Good Morning America, and I've been on.
What were you interviewed? Oprah, Good Morning America.
Some were different. With Oprah, I was brought in as kind of a relationship expert. It was really about families and with issues with in-laws, and they wanted an expert to deal with those kinds of relationship issues. That Good Morning America was on another piece of my work on soft addictions. It's a term that we coined for those, those seemingly harmless habits like too much social media and over texting and over shopping and overeating and the things
Internet.
we all do. Yes, all of that. So that was that. It was interviewed. And then 2020 did a program. They followed me working with people to see the results with that. And
how did that turn out?
Oh my gosh! Thank goodness it turned out well. It went beautifully.
Yeah.
They had 3 different people they had me work with and followed them over time, and they just had great results in their lives.
And is that segment of 2020 available on the internet somewhere?
Yeah, it is. Actually, it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
And is there a link from your website to?
There is, and I'll double check and make sure we vary them a lot and put new ones up. But yes, we do have, and alternately we put that one up because it's fun to see.
Excellent. Now, why do you say goals are neither necessary nor sufficient for success?
Because they're not. They're actually sometimes can be limiting. They can be helpful. They can help you gather your energy towards something. But what we found in our research and what I found in my doctoral research on these people who live great lives, it's not really about goals. They sometimes can be somewhat limiting. They aren't, because oftentimes we're kind of, see if you can relate to this, Jay, like what we're kind of guilty of what the positive psychologists call miswanting. We want something mistakenly thinking that it's going to make us happy, but it really doesn't. We have a goal, we think when we reach it, oh, that's going to be it. And it doesn't last, or it doesn't feel as fulfilling as we hoped it would be.
Right, then the person's got to get a new goal.
Yes, exactly.
So they're in the chase instead of the present.
Yeah, exactly, and miss the journey. And also, I think what we found in our process, and we can talk about that some more, when you orient towards something that's deeper, what we call our deeper yearnings, you actually end up achieving a lot of different goals and much more fulfilling and not so limited of just looking at one thing in your life.
Okay, and would you say that's been true in your life, not having goals?
Yeah, because initially I had a lot of goals, and I had good willpower, I'd work hard and I would meet them, but I didn't have fulfillment, nor was I transforming, nor was I fulfilling my potential. I was meeting my goals, I was achieving, I was doing good work, I lost weight like I told you about different things, but I wasn't becoming who I could become.
Yeah, well, and what good is achieving a goal if you're not satisfied or fulfilled, as you put it?
Exactly right.
So, what are some signs besides fulfillment that you're making the right choices?
Let me talk about the first thing we found when we were studying these people who live great lives, this whole process we found of transformation. And the very first thing we found is they were all guided by what we ended up naming our deeper yearnings. And what I mean by that is the yearnings that we all have. We all yearn to love and be loved, to matter, to make a difference, to be seen, to be heard. Those kinds of things really matter to us. And if we orient toward that, in the moment, we're much more fulfilled. When I look at all my goals, I wanted my goals, but they weren't really meeting what I yearned for. Like even just now in talking with you, we both have yearnings here. Like, I yearn to make a difference. I yearn to connect with you. I yearn to be understood. I yearn to understand you. I yearn to connect. That's what's fulfilling about this. Not just, oh, I hope I say a good thing, a right thing, or oh, let's try to be smart. That's not the point. It's really the quality of the moments that makes the biggest difference.
Yeah, well, sometimes when I work with cancer patients, I will say, to live each day to the fullest, and by doing that, that's how you extend your life.
As beautifully said, yes, it really is that. And it's like you don't miss the journey because of that.
And you enjoy it every step of the way.
Right, absolutely. And you don't have to wait for something else to happen. You're enjoying it in that moment, that day. Things don't have to be perfect, but you can enjoy those moments.
Yes. Now, I don't know if I'm saying this word right, but what does evolating mean?
Evolating.
Evolating.
Yeah,
okay,
evolating.
like evolution.
Yeah, it's similar. It's a Latin word, but it's a little bit different than evolution. So we were looking when we were discovering this process, and we're studying these people. We started out by studying our students, actually, because we realized that all of our students were learning and growing, but some were having these huge transformational shifts, like these big leaps in their life. Their leadership was going just wild. They were making huge impact. They were getting ahead in their careers. They had a depth of intimacy in their relationships. And not like everything was perfect, but there was a high quality going on. And we were wondering, what is it? What were they doing? And what we found was the 6-phase process. We named it evolating because evolution means kind of gradually adapting to what is already there. Evolating means flying up, transformational leaps. It means like unfurling, like a scroll that unfurls.
Like quantum leaps?
Yes, like quantum leaps. So it has a different connotation than evolution. So evolating felt like the right word for what we were studying and what these people were doing.
Okay. And in your book, you have 6 phases of the evolating process.
Yes, yeah.
You want to talk a little bit about those 6 phases? I know you mentioned yearning, which is the first one.
Yeah, and that one kind of, obviously these we call them phases, but they don't happen real discreetly. They all happen together, but I think they'll make sense too. It's like
Can we yearn for more than one thing
at
a time?
Yeah, all the time. I think we yearn for a lot of things, and I think that's important for us to yearn. And it doesn't have yearning doesn't have just one form to it. There's not just one way to meet that or one goal. So it's really something like in the moment to be aware of. And developmentally, sometimes we have different yearnings. The first thing might be the yearning for security, but then maybe it's more of the yearning for connection or the yearning to make a difference. It kind of, as we fill ourselves in a little bit more, the yearnings develop and mature, I think. But they all go on all at the same time. So the first thing is that's kind of the inner GPS, I think, that really guides people.
And do you have techniques for one to discover the yearnings? Because I think there are people that have yearnings they aren't aware of, or yearnings they don't know how to express.
Right. One of them, we give them even just a list of yearnings, and you can kind of feel it. If you can sense, if you're sensitive, you can sense, that's it, that's what I yearn for. But we also help people.
You actually have a list?
Yeah.
What are some of the things on the list?
Well,
I mean, obviously you talked about helping other people. That's got to be like a big priority for most people.
It is for most people, and it's too, and they're the kind of, every single human being has these. That's what's so beautiful about them. But it is things like the yearning we have, what you're saying, to make a difference, yearning to matter, the yearning to connect with something greater than ourselves, but sometimes the yearning to belong, or the yearning to understand and be understood, the yearning to connect. And oftentimes for many of us, just to be seen, to be heard, to be known, to know that we exist, to affirm our realities.
And what happens when we don't follow the yearnings?
We're cranky, and we're unhappy, and we're unfulfilled, and it's like we don't know what's wrong. We try to substitute. We drink a little more. We eat a little more. We're doing a lot of other things because it's like an itch we're not scratching.
Well, what about a mother with, say, 4 kids and she's so busy caring for her children, that there's really little time left over.
It's really tough, and I do a lot of work with women. Obviously, it's a special thing for me to look at, and women are oftentimes so much better being aware of the yearnings and the needs of everyone else and not themselves. However, every woman can meet more of her yearnings. It's not time, it's more of awareness and consciousness and intent. Like, it's just simple things, not easy necessarily, but when you're tucking your children in bed at night, rather than, okay, I got to get this done so I can go do the laundry, but if you can take a moment while you're tucking them in and really go, oh my God, this is my beloved, this is my child, have that moment of connection. Or you're carpooling, just having some of that conversation in the carpooling, or when you're making dinner, to remember these are people that you love. It's a labor of love, even though you're sometimes frantic. It's not always easy, but if we can find the quality of the experience, even in the day-to-day, it can really add more fulfillment.
Okay. So yearning is the first phase.
Yes, but we can't just sit there and yearn, oh, yearn. We have to act on it. And the next part is engaging.
Okay.
We need to engage in our lives in ways that meet those deeper yearnings. So it's living more adventurously, but it's also being conscious, it's not really fully engaging unless it's meeting a yearning, unless you're aware of your emotions, your feelings, you're more like awake with it, because you can be busy, you can be engaged, be active, but it doesn't necessarily fulfill you. So the true definition for us of engaging is something that you're living more adventurously, you're trying things to try to meet those deeper yearnings.
Now, you do coaching, correct?
Yeah.
And so would you go through the various phases with the people that you are coaching?
Yeah, we kind of combine things oftentimes. We do coaching and seminars and then small groups, learning laboratories, because we found that combination really skyrockets people's growth. So not everybody chooses that, but it's an amazing combination. So we have a whole curriculum of life assignments. We call it the assignment way of living. So every day, every week, you might hit a different life assignment that you're trying out in your life or your job or your relationships.
And so when people come to you, they keep coming back for weeks and months and years if they choose.
Sometimes they choose because they're developing their leadership, they're developing themselves in different ways, and there's always more.
Well, and I would assume that there's support from not only, of course, from you and your husband, but from other participants.
It's amazing. We have a beautiful, it's like a lifelong learning community of people who hold vision for one another, support one another, empower one another. We have lots of other faculty. Our students become faculty. It's like all these people who care about you and want the best for you.
Now, it reminds me, I think it was Napoleon Hill who wrote about the mastermind group.
Yes, yes. It has a feel of that, but when you know that people are on your side, they've got your back. And there's another thing, when you've been with someone for a while, you can see what the patterns are. If you would see Judith, you're doing that thing you do, and that would help me get better feedback for myself as well.
Well, one thing I noticed, from the endorsements or feedback, you attract a lot of highly educated, successful people like doctors and lawyers and entrepreneurs and business owners, etc.
Yeah, we do. We do have that. I think it gives because I think oftentimes people have that sense they've kind of done it all, but is this it? Is this all there is? There's something missing. Sometimes that's it.
That unfulfilled.
That unfulfilled thing. And we deal with college students, and we deal with artists, and we deal with entrepreneurs, and we deal with huge ranges of people, which is what we love to be able to do.
Okay, so engaging is the second phase.
Now, out of engaging, what happens is the next thing that often happens is what we call revelating, which means you're like, wow, I was living really limited. You start to discover your belief systems. You start to discover how you've been mistaken about what life could actually be. You start to discover what we call your matrix, your programming of unconscious beliefs and thoughts about what you thought life could be. And you start to discover maybe it could be a different way.
Now, revelating, is that from the word revelation?
Yes, and it means to reveal. Actually, it means to have a depth of insight. And this also includes being more revealing of ourselves, so opening ourselves up more, being more transparent.
Well, for me, just to have the revelation is transformational in and of itself.
Yeah, it is. It's a really big deal. Although what we found in our research, because oftentimes it's like, wow, you start seeing oh my gosh. But then we found also sometimes it's not sufficient. Then we found that it's people who do the next phase, which is liberating, where they actually more consciously act on that insight, on that revelation. Because sometimes you're going to sit with the insight, but if you don't act on it, it doesn't become part of you or part of your life.
Okay.
So liberating is where you're more consciously engaging in that way, informed by that insight from revelating.
Well, it's like, just to think about it, it just feels good.
Yeah, it feels so good. It
Yeah.
feels so good.
Okay, and then the fifth phase
Is what we call rematrixing. When you start to discover, this is where it starts to stick. When you start to realize, wow, if you understand how the brain works, how to be constantly, consistently strategizing, becoming, rather than, it's kind of like the thing, if you just lose weight, it'll come back if you don't change how you think about things. But for rematrixing is actually changing your core mistaken beliefs and really realizing, well, wait, I am deserving, I am lovable. The world is not a hostile place. The world is supportive of me, and really doing the work you need to do to make that part of who you are.
Now, would you also call rematrixing like a paradigm shift?
I think it is a paradigm shift. That's
Okay.
beautifully put. And it takes, it's like, when they talk about mastery, it takes 10,000 hours. Well, shifting your paradigm to really have it become your new paradigm takes a lot of consciousness and a little step by little step to really build those neural pathways of your new becoming. And that leads to the next phase, which is dedicating. Because it's hard to do this if you're just flirting with growth. But if you really decide, this is what I'm about becoming the best person I can become. I'm about transformation. This is my life journey. When you make that who you are, your identity, it really starts to add way more motivation and more result.
I was reviewing the phases. I wrote down the phases on my notes.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, my God, this could really help people with addictions. There's a lot of talk about opioid addictions now. And
yeah, very much so. Very, very much so.
Have you worked with addicts at all?
I have. And then I've mostly worked with soft addicts, because I realized that, that things, maybe it's not drugs or alcohol, things that actually can kill you, but there's things that really deprive you of the quality of life that we talked about before, whether it's, over shopping or texting or
it could be
internet.
soda pop.
It can be. Listen, I've had people tell me that they over-volunteered, like they were volunteering so much they never got to their own life. A good thing can become addictive as well. But to really unlock those patterns, when you really understand you're trying to meet a need, and if you can identify what that hunger is and meet it in a way that really satisfies you, it helps release the grip of those tough addictions.
Okay. Now, I'm also aware that you've led sacred travel trips.
Yeah.
Are you still doing that?
We are, We're doing a trip to Vietnam and Laos next, and we've been Egypt and Tibet and China and Morocco and Spain and England, but we pick sacred sites all over the world, and we lead a group to be able to really study the spiritual traditions, spiritual communities, a sense of how people hold what's sacred in their lives all over the world. So we do it once a year.
So was that like one of your yearnings to see the world when you left?
I guess it was in that way, but I've always been, really...
But to share it with other people.
To share it with others and discover through others, and really we take many different faiths, so people agnostic and Muslim and Buddhist and Christian and Jewish, and being together in these other places in the world and studying and immersing ourselves with what is it that people find as holy or sacred. How do they orient their lives towards something higher? And it's a beautifully sacred journey to hoping that we can learn to live life as a sacred journey, not just go on a sacred journey.
And how long are your sacred trips?
They're not, they're like 8 to 10 or 11 days, something like that, a long week to really immerse ourselves.
And do you have like a lot of your students come? And
yeah, we do, and some people have made it like their spiritual discipline to do that every year, and different people come every year. It's always a different experience, but it's like we get to see and have these experiences through one another's eyes as well, which is really, really rich. It's beautiful.
Well, I've just got to sign a minute. I'll give you 30 seconds of that minute to talk about anything you want. I mean, please.
Well, thank you. I think that it's just really important that all of us realize that we deserve really magnificent lives, and there's more possibilities for each and every one of us, and we need skills, and we need support, and we need one another to really fan the flames of that deep yearning and desire that we have. And with the right skills, we all can live the lives that we deeply desire.
Well, I'm going to wrap it up, but I want to say I've been doing this show for 20 years, and you have made one of the best impressions of all the guests I've had in those 20 years. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
For more information about Infinity Foundation InnerQuest talk show, Dr. Judith Wright and her foundation and school, please stay tuned to the credits at the end. Until next time, wish you good health, good spirits, and good fortune. Thank you.
Thank you, Jay. Thanks.
For more information about this show, our guest, Infinity Foundation, or any of our other programs, please visit our website, infinityfoundation.org, or call us at 847-831-8828.